Yo, all right, I'm on. You still there?
Yep.
All right. I just got to just 1 second.
All right.
All right. Just one So I figured out how to put like background stuff. So 1 second. All right. So I can't remember, Rick. Were you listening in last time?
I didn't catch the last stream, but I did catch the very first one. With your DM. With your first DM, I believe it was.
Yeah. Yep, Matt.
I did. Matt,
Cool.
I did catch that one.
Awesome. So last time we focused a lot on the players, different types of players, and how I groom my players. We talked a bit about like pros and cons. I was talking with a guy Tracken, who's another streamer here on Twitch, and he's a cool guy. We're talking about some different systems and whatnot, but I thought what we would talk about this episode, like we discussed the other day, 2 days ago maybe, is essentially from the player's perspective. So from you, who to anybody watching, Rick is a player of mine, and he's been in a bunch of different games. He's been like 2 of mine, but he plays a lot. He's been around the block, so I thought it might be a good opportunity to swap that perspective a little bit and look at different types of GMs instead of different types of players. So,
Sounds good to me.
so
Hi, everybody. Although you've heard my voice plenty of times before with 2 other characters, but hi anyway.
Right. So, so what else? Just putting D&D aside for a minute, what else have you played?
Have I played anything else? I think the only tabletop games I've played are D&D and Pathfinder. I think with another group I've done. What is it called? Mutants and Masterminds? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The one where you pretty much build like a superhero. I believe that's what it's called. Mutants and Masterminds. I've played that as well, but mostly 5e 3.5 and Pathfinder has been for the past 5 years my bread and butter, my go-to. Unless we're talking about video games, I play all of those.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, just gauging. So, how often do you play? Obviously, you play once a week with me, but.
Let's see. At this time, I only have one other game going on Sunday, but at my peak, I've had, let's see, a Monday game going, a Tuesday game, a Wednesday game, a Friday game, a Saturday game, and essentially I've played. I've had an entire week of games going, except maybe 2 days.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun. It's just D&D every day.
Nice, man. So, needless to say, you've been around the block, so you get a good perspective, I hope. So, all right, before we kick it off, so I'll start out by saying that none of these are necessarily bad. I prefer some methods clearly over others. It's just, I don't know. I think the purpose of this, right, is, how can I improve, right? What can I steal? And also, like, knowing what are your bounds as a GM or, as a player, identifying them, because I keep kicking back to the last campaign because there was like a good mix of players. So it's like a good example because it's like I can always defer back to that one, right? And
absolutely.
Going to, like, for instance, Swarm King. Great guy.
Yeah.
I love that guy. I love playing with that guy. I didn't like the aftermath because he was a raw sort of player. It's like if he couldn't handle like making a call on the fly, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that he's wrong. It doesn't mean that like I'm a bad GM, right? Because we didn't mesh 100%. It's just different play styles, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so feel free to add to the list and come up with any. I'm just going to read up some different ones, right? So,
All right, go ahead.
like I just talked about, kind of Swarm King style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got the rules interpreter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got the DM equivalent of the rules lawyer, right?
Yeah.
I think there is some robustness in running a game like that, because I think I've said this before, that you can go and be like, no, this is how it works, and especially if you're running an edition like third edition, right? 3.5,
Yeah.
and it's very rules heavy and it all makes sense.
Yeah.
That you can have a good time. But I suppose before I get into more of my thoughts, what do you think about a DM that runs that way?
A DM that runs strictly rules. I've had, I think, it was one of the games that I was in last year. One of the many along those week. One of the DMs was a rule heavy DM, and it was to give a little background of it. It was a world that he created himself. From the scratch, from the ground up, from the urchins to the king or whatever the ruling class was. He pretty much built this world from scratch, and to him, he was allowing other people to come in and enjoy his world, but they needed to follow the rules of his world, or at the very least understand that by not following the rules of his world, there were going to be very heavy consequences. Now, me personally, I was okay with that because, one, this guy built an amazing world. This was a really good world, I might add. He had your level of world building, when it came to like the details, to the finite stuff, to the broad stuff. It was a really nice world, and I respected that. So I was like, hey, if he has these rules, I'm okay with following these rules. However, there were some players who were, you could kind of tell, more used to loose rules, or kind of the rule of cool, as you know about, where it's not strictly by the rules, but it's fun. And he had a tendency to go, hey, these are the rules, this is what's going to happen if there's no rule of cool. This is the law, this is what's going to happen. And it got, I don't want to say it got like bad or annoying, because personally for me, I had no issue with it. I had no problem following those rules. But I think that's also because at that time I dealt with so many GMs that I was kind of used to that fluctuating GM style. But I would say for a new player kind of coming in who maybe had never experienced that before, somebody who is rules heavy is a bit of a shock to the system sometimes. Like, it makes you kind of stop and go, oh, wow, okay, I thought we were supposed to be having fun here, so I don't understand what I did wrong. But, when you have somebody that has a love for the game like that, I mean, you don't see it, but it's there. And so, but it is that shock to the system. Like, do I even want to come back next Sunday? I don't know.
For you, or just because of the other players?
It was the other player. Me, I was fine. I came back, but the other players did not like that DMing style. I think of our 5 or 6, 3 or 4, I think it was only 2 of us left at the end. And the guy was like super disheartened. He was like, well, he's like, I don't really want to compromise my world for the sake of, guys having like unnecessary fun. I mean, to be fair, the rules that were broken was something that probably should not have been done, but it wasn't like murder hobo-y or anything like that. But it was also something that the GM could have let slide. Been like, hey, I'm gonna let it go this time, but just to let you know, these are kind of this is kind of out of bounds as far as my world goes. So, but no, yeah, like a lot of people dropped due to that, and the game ended up being dropped as a whole, unfortunately. But that's the risk. That's one of the risky run of
Right.
being very rules heavy. Is
And now, are you talking just in general having a lot of rules, or do you mean right? Because there's a difference between there's homebrew and then there's rules as written.
I think
Is it
this.
just them
Mhm.
not being flexible, or is it
Yeah,
like
that's it right there. That not being malleable and just kind of being, just stiff as a board. You're not going to
right,
bend eventually. Either if you're not going to bend, you're going to break. The saying goes. So just that not being able to say, hey, okay, I'll let it slide, this time, but hey, let's try to stay on track, next time. Uh,
right,
just kind of when you want to push your players in that one direction with the rules, but they want to
right,
have fun. They don't want to be, stuck with, I mean, game rules obviously is fine. That that stuff is kind of I don't want to say set in stone, but for the most part, there's the general basic rules that nobody really tries to change or anything.
right,
But in this instance, it wasn't one of those game rules. It was more of like I said, a homebrew rule, a rule of law within the world that
right.
should have and could have been malleable and save the game, but was not, unfortunately.
I think I've actually gone so both ends of the spectrum. I think
Hmm.
when I first started out
Hmm.
DMing, I think I wanted to make everybody happy, so I think I just caved in and said yes to everything, and
Mm,
it makes the game superficial. Plus I was also young, so I was like, I wasn't really running the kind of game I run now anyway.
yeah.
I was just like, yeah, fuck it. There's like some fucking orcs and stuff, and just slaughter them. And it was,
Hmm.
I don't want to say that it was one big funhouse dungeon or anything, but
Yeah.
it was certainly not as detailed and not as meaningful as the games I try and run now, right?
Absolutely.
So there was that spectrum of saying yes to everything, and then I had a phase when I just started, like I just said no to everything, which
Mm,
is just as bad, if not worse, right? Because people want to have fun,
yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
and then over time I found that balance in the middle of like there are some things that you can't move on because it takes away,
Hmm.
but then when you can say yes, it's about having like, I don't know, I would say somewhere like a 70-30. Like
Sure.
this is the way it works, and my part is 70%, and then I'll leave a little spot open for you guys to kind of like, oh, you're describing how you do the thing, and okay, maybe the rules don't exactly cover if I wanted to jump over a box and like do this cool thing.
Yeah.
So I'll just again make an acrobatics check. Otherwise, like, it counts as difficult terrain or something. So it's like it's not breaky or whatever, but or
Hmm.
sometimes I'll just let it happen, right? I think that flexibility is key, and I think that's what people that run rules-heavy games tend to lack. They lack spontaneity,
Yeah.
and they get stuck. It bogs down the game, I find, unless like they just have them all up in their head, right? But
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think I don't necessarily think it's a terrible way to run a game either. But I
Hmm.
think again you have to have a good group that appreciates that, right? Because sometimes people don't like to know that like Dylan said I can do this. Like that doesn't make sense. Like some people want that fact that like, hey, this is what the book says. But
Yeah. Absolutely.
again,
And that was definitely a game where you had at least two people who were like, "These are the rules." Okay, I don't have a problem with that. If you
right,
could have got two more people like that, it would have been that game would have been just fine. But I think he, as a DM, was just kind of so disheartened afterwards
right,
because it kind of blew up with the other player, and it just he just lost the heart for it and ended up ending the game. But if he had two more players like me and the other guy who were like, "Yeah, no, I understand. That's no problem. I can follow these rules. That's easy."
right,
But I think when it comes to rules and stuff like that, a lot of D&D players like to play assholes, so to speak. They like to play those dickish characters who can kind of
Yeah.
break the rules, and I mean, a lot of people like to play those. Most people like to play those characters, and so when you get a DM who's like, "Yeah, that's not going to work in this world," and sometimes you get those DMs that say it at the beginning, "Hey, that's not going to work in this world," and then eventually they kind of
give in.
let up. Yeah, they give in and let up. Like, yeah, okay, sure, go ahead, whatever. But he was not one of those. He was like, "This is what you're gonna. This is what you're gonna do. All right, you're doing this against somebody that's way stronger than you. Are you sure? Okay, this is what happens." So, it was, he was a one-time warning type of guy. I'm gonna give you this one warning, and if you don't find it, follow it after this, hey, the consequences are on you. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Kudos to him, man. You know, because like I said, I've been both ends of the spectrum.
Mhm.
And anybody watching, don't bully your DM, right?
Yeah.
They're doing all this because there's different reasons, but they want to have fun with you. So if you're just pestering them to do the thing you want to do, you can find another GM, right? That can do the thing you want to do, because sure as hell they can find a bunch more players.
Absolutely.
Because the supply and demand and all that. But anyway, be kind.
Be kind.
So yeah, rules interpreter. Yeah. So right, pretty much, yeah. So next, and I have a deep affinity. I'm a good mix of a couple of these. Simulator. The simulator DM. They want realism in their game. They want everything to run as a simulation. They don't care if it's NPC or if it's hero. It's gonna run how it's gonna run. The dice fall as they may, and the pros of it, I think, are the fact that the world is dangerous. There's always that risk, but I think I clash with a lot of players because they're expecting that pulp fiction, and I try and give that to people, but I also want them to know there are situations where you I don't want to be like, this is how you play, but I don't take mercy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that sort of game and my sort of game, and it doesn't go to this extreme, but it can, where here are the systems of the world, right? Yeah. Here's starvation rules, and here's this and that we're grafting on, or we're making more difficult, or we're doing whatever. I have the exhaustion and whatever, which I don't think is that bad. All the exhaustion is really doing is, for the most part, saying, hey, plan before you do stuff, or it's just making the days go by. It's okay, and then 3 days go by, and then we do the thing. Really just to move the calendar for the most part. But I think it can get to the point where it's so difficult, or it's either so difficult or the heroes are so insignificant that they are just why am I playing? I can be insignificant every day of my life, right? Why am I playing this game?
Yeah,
so
it's just like real life. I don't want this.
Right, I'm I enjoy that sort of punishment. I actually like really hardcore games, but again, that's not for everybody, because that's the fantasy, right? I want to be a fucking barbarian. I want to be Berserk. Absolutely. Right?
Yeah, definitely. And that is actually my second favorite type of DMing style. I have one above that, but that's my second favorite type of DMing style. Just that realism. I one, because like you said, it's hard. When you've played in as many games as I've played in, you've kind of you hit a plateau and a wall of have done everything essentially, and just to kind of get that realism, okay, this is a challenge. This is hard. I might die. This is a character that I like, and I don't want them to die. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna leave two of my party members behind to die.
Yeah.
I'm gonna save the one that I can, and I'm gonna run away. And even when I do that, I still almost die myself. And that type of gritty realism is fun. You know what I mean? If you let it be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
It's fun if you let it be fun.
I think, again, if you have a good balance, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said,
Yeah.
there's the dark side, which we've kind of already talked about.
Yeah.
But, also, it's a double-edged sword in my opinion, because
Yeah.
with that simulation sort of style, I feel like it's a lot more immersive, right? I feel like having those
Yeah.
systems in place make it feel more real. And but like I said, if you take it too far, then
Absolutely. Yeah. It's you get the players that are like, you know what? I didn't want to die right there, but and they get upset and sulky. But hey, it's the fun of it. But also, I mean, it also I think that heavily depends on how long have you been
yeah,
D&Ding, because some people haven't been playing long enough to kind of hit that plateau yet, and
yeah,
they want the epic battles and all the magic items and all the monsters and the slay the dragon. They haven't gotten to have that experience yet. So I think
right,
when they get in the game where it's like, this is a little too real, this is a little magic, we can die. They just haven't. I'm trying to think what's the. I don't. They haven't experienced enough, I think is what I'm trying to. They haven't experienced
yeah,
enough yet to be ready for that realism. Honestly, it's
yeah,
kind of essentially like real life in that, where someone just hasn't gotten
yeah.
old enough or wise enough to experience the realism of the real world. So
Right. Well,
it's
yeah,
just
drinking's fun when you're 21, but then all of a sudden you're
yeah,
25 and you're like in your
yep.
house alone and you're crying and you're like with a
And it's
bottle of
10
Jack
a.m.
and
and
you're like,
yep.
what the
Oh,
hell? What
we've
what happened?
if we have any
Right?
if you have any young listeners, you're not old enough yet to hit that yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, we
Ah,
mourn for you in advance.
exactly.
Um, so
I've had
yeah,
I've
no,
had
I
that 10
agree.
a.m. Gen.
That is why I add a lot of those elements to my game, right? Is because as I go along, I feel like it's harder and harder
Hmm.
for players and myself to like get that immersion, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so the fun in me DMing, right, is I don't know exactly how things are going to turn out, and I
Right.
also want to like convince myself, right?
Yeah.
So I like that because I can have all these tables, and that's the beauty of having online, virtual tabletop, right?
Yeah.
Is because I can have these randomized tables and they're quick. They don't bog down the game, so it adds a touch of the randomization, the touch
Hmm.
of the simulation, but it's not
Absolutely.
100%. There is a balance, right? Um,
Yeah.
so okay. Any other thoughts on the simulator?
No, I think we hit it all for the most part. From our
So
point of view, at least.
so the next one, I would consider the hmm, I'm trying to think of how to articulate what I'm trying to say here. I have like types, but I don't have like a name, so we'll say, for lack of a better term, um, the narrator, right?
Okay.
There's like their game has very strong like cinematic styles, kind of like when we do skill challenges, right?
Yeah.
Everything is like, oh, I'm describing the thing and doing the thing, and it's a lot of rule of cool. Um,
The, the Mercer DM. Gotcha.
and yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll call it the Mercer.
The
Yeah,
Mercer.
yeah. I'll put it in my notes, the Mercer. So you got the Mercer, right?
Hmm.
And I think in a sense it's pretty much the opposite, the opposite of the simulator, right? Because it's a lot about the players do make a difference. They make a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
And
The world
it's
revolves around them. Yeah.
correct, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think I have bits and pieces of this, but
Mhm.
there's kind of another, like the next one I want to talk about. I think is more me, but um,
Okay.
I think playing in a game like this, it requires everybody to kind of be on the same page,
Yeah.
because you have like that one, you have like Toasted, right?
Hmm.
And everybody's in this, and we're all like super RP, and like we have a certain style, right? And then you got the Toasted, and nothing against Toasted, but like it just wasn't. I
Hmm.
don't think it was a good fit for that group,
Yeah.
right? And what happens is it makes it hard to run that sort of game, because you either feel like you're taking away that, like, the other part, like that realism that I'm trying to add, right?
Hmm.
But doing it in a way that doesn't seem like you're just like handing people everything.
Yeah.
So, all right, I just one thing, and then I want to know your thoughts on the Mercer.
Okay.
So, and this is kind of my only beef, and this is why I don't like to run like that, is I feel like the dice and all the things that are going on are inconsequential.
Mm.
You know, I feel like it's just like the Mercers don't really want to kill their players, right?
Hmm.
And not that I want to kill them. I don't want to kill my players.
Right.
But
you will
I
die.
feel like they're more afraid too, right? They're more
Yeah.
like, because they're so player focused that,
Yeah.
you know, character death is like, oh, but you have to have that balance. And I think all these, right, there's a pendulum, like extreme to mild. So,
Absolutely.
anyway, so your thoughts on the Mercer?
All right. So, this is actually one of the few DMs I've not got to experience yet as in a whole. Or as a whole, I've gotten a little bit of it, but not a lot of it. And that's just because I think for that type of DM, you have to have, like you said, you have to have players that match that DM style. Just because I've had DMs where they try to do that narrative, but they have players who kind of want to, I don't want to say take the spotlight, but take the spotlight. That's what I'm going to say. None of them are here. It doesn't matter. You have those players that kind of want to take the spotlight of that narration, and that like sometimes it cuts the. I like the immersion of it. You know, when a DM is getting into his narration and he's doing the voices and he's bringing you in. You know, what are you going to do? Do it fast. You know, this is what happens, and he does this whole essentially like how you do the skill challenges, but that's like the whole of it. When he does that, you have to have the players who can sit there and be attentive and be be dragged into the world and not be, I guess, disruptive is the best word I can think of. Not even on purpose sometimes. It's mostly accidental, but it does happen, and that hurts the immersion. I think it's one of those DM styles that work better in person. I don't think it's one that you can really do, over voice like this. Or if you have cameras, you can do it, like that. But I think it's one where you have to be able to kind of see the DM and be sucked in physically. Well, not physically, but I think it's easier for it to be done. It's easier for it to be done in a physical manner. That type of DMing style, which I think is why it works for somebody like Matt Mercer, where everybody's around the table and you could. And an actor, but you can see when he starts getting into his story and his narration of what happens, all eyes turn to Matt Mercer. Nobody's fumbling or twitching, or their eyes are on him, and he sucks. And I guarantee you, even the people who are behind the camera, who are running the production, and everything, I guarantee you, they're all like staring at Matt as well, just sucked into that world. So I think it's a DM style that definitely works at its best, at its peak, when it's something that's in person. Again, it's not a DM style I've got to experience really personally because I mostly play over the internet. But I think it's something that works much better in person, but not really that well over these intranets.
If you ever come to the Northeast, man, I love doing props. I love like little costumes and stuff. Not like full costume, but like little scarves or hats or whatever.
I gotcha.
Oh man. Anyway, so I will just say, I don't know if you could handle a Mercer, because I think that level of character requires a lot of like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say paying attention. I don't think it's not that you don't pay a lot of attention, but like they're very like they remember the details, right? They're there. They have it. They're not like, oh, what was that dude? You mean the dude we've been talking, like the main dude right now?
For anybody who doesn't know,
come on,
I am the worst at like taking notes and paying attention. I kind of go off into my own world. I don't take notes, and then it comes back to something later, and I'm like, "What? Did we meet that guy? What? Like, yeah, he was the prince of so and so. Oh, well, I can't believe I missed that. Like, I miss whole chunks of
Oh yeah.
stuff, and that's mostly due to my inattentiveness. I'm getting old, man. I don't have the mind for. I don't have the mind. I don't have the mind like I'm used to. I'll be 30 next year. Jesus,
Holy
give me.
shit, Fossil.
Yeah,
Oh
I know,
man.
right? Ugh,
You
I'm a
know, but that's all right, man. You know,
dirty old man.
I still love you. You know, I'm glad you're in my games, man.
Good, good. So yeah, I don't think I can handle that type of DM because I'd be like, I'd get into it, but I'd be so into it that um, I wouldn't take notes, and then they'd be like, "Oh, you remember that awesome thing that happened when the DM did that?" No, I don't. I don't remember. I don't remember that happening at all. When was that? So
Try a flow chart.
float.
You know, just breaking away real quick. Taking notes, I think is a skill. You know, I've learned it through going to college, blah, blah, blah. I've tried different types, right? I think it starts off as you write every word, you write all these paragraphs, and then you never fucking read it, and it's like absolutely useless, right? So now what I do is I literally make a flow chart. Like, last episode will be like, talk to Vizier. That's like, you know, one thing. And then you did all the talking, right? I pretty much know the details. I'm good at like remembering a lot of like what you said, but I might just have like little keywords like didn't tell truth or like whatever, right?
Yeah,
and then it'll be like going to or going to sued, right? And then I have like another box for undead battle, and then like entered sued. So it's really like 4 main things that happened. And then under that, like if I have any names, if I have any things that branch off, I just make little notes. And then it's like, it looks like a straight line. All my notes look like a straight line with like little tiny notes. And each box has maybe like not much, like 4 bullet points. And then if I have a name, I just write it somewhere on the paper, like around the time it happened, and I usually highlight it after. Like, it's very simple. But, you know. Anyway, so I digress. So
I'll give it a try.
Yeah, it might work well for you, even just like those main points.
Yeah.
But everybody's a different kind of learner. So yeah, the Mercer. Like I said, I think the biggest thing is it takes away from the tension. You know, because if you're good at masking it, it's fine. But if you have people that know what they're looking for and they're like, this guy's never gonna kill us, right? Or like, or like if they can see through your veil, right? Veil, you're fucked. I don't want to say you're fucked, but you know what I mean. Like it ruins the game. I think
they'll do everything. They'll do everything. Like, this is us now. You sit back, you give us items, you give us a quest, but this is our game now. Yeah, I definitely get that. Which is why I think that's something easier to do in person, because I think it'd be easier to kind of read if a GM's uncomfortable and he sees it going that way, you should be able to read the body language of a GM who. I have played in person once before, and I kind of had a GM who you could kind of tell when everybody was getting off into their own thing, and we were having kind of that side conversation where we were just kind of essentially that thing where we were starting to kind of walk all over him, and I could look at him and tell when his body language changed to, okay, I really want to get this back on track, but I don't know how to get it back on track. And that's when I, as a player, would step in. Hey guys, let's focus up and get back in this. So, but that also comes in where you got to have those players who can recognize that, if that makes sense.
Right. No, absolutely.
Okay.
Any sort of good communication, right? In any of these, I think is good. Setting the right sort of expectations, right? Like you're the GM. This is the way my rules work. Beware.
Absolutely.
But yeah, okay. Next type. I think I have an affinity for this. So, the other one, right? The Mercer, the narrator. I think this one is more the world builder.
Mm.
And
The
I
world builder.
world builder. I love world building. I love the process. It's just fun. It's just like a creative exercise, right? I have this setting
Yeah.
and there's all these different places in the setting, and I just run every new campaign. I just run in a different place to keep exploring it. It's really fun. Um, but I think I have learned over time to only do what is necessary or to plan on a higher level. And
Yeah.
I've seen other people like the the guy that was on last week, Tracken. He just does world building sessions all the time,
Yeah.
and he literally plots out like the name of every NPC in every inn in every town in every region and every that's what he does. And it's kind of cool in a sense, but I think you lose, like we're talking about, if you go too far off the deep end, you lose flexibility.
Yeah.
And I think you can get stuck because you're like, oh shit, like you have it's all figured out, right? So if
Yeah.
you forget it or if it's not there, I think that if you're not using your improv muscle, it degrades over time.
Yeah.
So if you spend all this time and you never improv, then I feel like that's when you get stuck. If you're a really good improver and a good world builder, then you can find a balance. Then great, I think cool. But if you're just like on the world building aspect, right?
That I think world building is something every single DM should have at least a little bit of. They should all dip a level of multi-classing into world building. That's
Right.
if that's the way I can put it.
So should everybody have their own world, or just kind of like you have this talent, like just exercise the muscles?
I think exercise the muscles. I think they should be able to, like you said, have that improv muscle. If they're going to use a world that's already like established as well, maybe you could maybe make your own town or two, or make your own leaders, make your own, and whatever it is that you want to do. Even if it's just a little bit of world building, nobody has to, build a whole planet if they don't want to. Those are my favorite type of GMs, just saying. But it's absolutely. I think if you're
I'll see
huh?
more info. I'll make you more handouts if that's what you're into. I just find it can be a lot. It can be too much. Like people be like, "This is all your noodly stuff." Like I don't care. Like they might read like a little bit. So I tend not to just flood people with my brain. I'm just like, it's all written down for me somewhere. But
I don't read handouts. So I'm probably the worst person to give that type of information to, because, as I stated, I don't read handouts. I don't take notes. But that's also because I like to be surprised. I like, as a character, to walk into a region that I probably should have read up on, but I didn't. So when I get, smacked in the face by UNT, good. Good. I like that surprise. I like that snuck up on me. So but that's just me personally. I love that surprise of a world and not knowing much about it myself, and so my character not knowing much about it, except for the stuff, obviously, if he grew up in a certain place, you know what I mean, then obviously I'll, hey DM, what do I know about this place? But for the most part, I like that. I like the surprise of a new world. Also, I'm too lazy to read out, handouts. But I love world building. I love seeing, like, that the GM that I told you about in that one game, who built this entire society from brick and mortar on up, and I like that type of commitment. I also think that building a big world makes for almost endless possibilities, so you do not run the risk of a player getting bored.
Right.
You don't run that risk of, like, ugh, we've done this before. We already blah blah blah. We did this. We did. Well, if the world is so big, it's like, a hex. It takes you 6 days to move a hex or something like that. This is just
Right.
an example. And you have this world full of hexes. Like, this is so much to roam through. There's so many places here, here, here. This could take years. That's the type of world building that I like, where you don't even, like in your world, where we're in this desert plain type of place, and I, as a player, know there are multiple places this size that are very different.
Yeah,
And
there's 5 other baronies that size. So.
exactly. And so I know that there's so much more to discover. Even if we finish in this region, there's so much more to discover, and I guarantee that my DM, a good GM, you're a good GM, has stuff for this world that's not going to mimic the stuff that we already ran into here. And I know that's putting a lot on the GM, but I don't mind doing that because I'll never GM, so I don't mind putting that type of pressure on you guys. So there's
right, like the annoying uncle that buys the shitty toys for all the kids, knowing that he's never gonna have a kid of his own. He's just like, meh.
Exactly. Here you go. I'm definitely that type of uncle who will feed my niece and nephew ice cream and sugar, and then drop them back off to their parents.
Yeah. I don't know. They were being perfect angels.
Yeah, they were great for me. I don't know. I was like, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what about the cons? Are there any cons to a world builder?
I think, harken back to the DM that I was talking about the rules. You get a DM who gets really invested in their world, and then they suck the fun out of it by being this too. They're being too, this is my baby. Hey, this world is my baby. I don't want you guys. I'm allowing you to be here. You know what I mean? That type of DM that's like, hey, I built this world. I'm allowing you to step into it. Take off your shoes and wipe your feet off before you step into my world. Like the DM that's a little too into their world. It's like, come on, guy. We all want to come in here and have fun. So that, just a little bit of that DM that's a little too into their own laws and too into their own lore.
Right.
I think is, don't get delusional in your world building. I think. I don't know. Maybe he was crazy. Maybe he lost his mind. No, it's fine. So yeah, not getting too into your world building to the point where the players can't enjoy the world how they want, because you want them to enjoy the world how you want.
Right.
I think that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
And I think that's a good point. It's about kind of what I was going to say in a sense. So I was going to say that the plots, and I find this is very true for mine, but you haven't played in mine long enough to see the transition.
Right.
The story is about the world and not the players.
Yes.
My stories, again, I try and plan like why would you plan like a 2 or 3 year campaign? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like maybe I could be more punchy, I guess, in the beginning, but I try and make the players like garbage, and then they transition so because it's really rewarding at the end, right? So I find my stories end up being about the world, and then at a certain point they start to include the players, and then they transition, and all of a sudden it's like it is the player story, right?
Yeah.
So again, I think that can be sometimes like the outcomes they're just already guaranteed. It's kind of like a linear railroady sort of game, or it's just like again, it's all about the world. So
absolutely, I agree. And I'll say something like I've noticed in the game that we're playing. I feel like when we had just to go off topic a little bit, the vizier, the prince's guy. I feel like when we told him like about the UNT attack and whatnot, and that how they were being supplied, it felt to me like, out to metagame a bit, it felt to me like he kind of already had a sense of what was going on, and you don't have to confirm or deny, but it felt to me as if he kind of had a sense of there was some type of corruption going on, and he already had an eye on this, and this was just additional information to help him out. So it was that sense of, hey, the world, other people in the world already knew this. You guys are just finding this out. You know what I mean? And you guys are just coming into this story, but there are people who were already on this. You're just so happen to be some people who are helping them out. And I like that about the story. It's like, because that's what I was thinking in my head. Like, this guy, I feel like he already knows a little bit about this. I never said it out loud, but I had the feeling that he already knew something about it. And I may be wrong. I could be wrong, but that's my thinking as a player. And I do like that.
Yeah.
All right, there are other people in the world who are nobody's that help. Is not all a world full of those helpless villagers. Oh, save us from the goblins. It's like, what? No, they're
Right.
little. We learned how to kill goblins a long time ago. You just so happened to be in town at the time, and you helped us. Thanks.
Right.
Here's a copper or two. Thanks for, I don't know,
A
but
pat on the back. There's some
Yeah.
beer.
yeah, good job.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I will neither confirm nor deny.
yeah,
I love that, because sometimes it's like sometimes like you guys are totally right. Sometimes you guys are totally wrong, and sometimes it like flip flops, right? Like you were right and you convince yourself to being wrong, like as a counsel, or vice versa. Like you're wrong and then you come up with a solution. So
Yeah.
I love it, and it's much like I don't know. Everybody has their own image of what's going on, and I love it. And I feel like that's what makes it interesting, right? Because you guys don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So
it's super frustrating.
it's frustrating, but it's
so fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But if it's ever too frustrating, you let me know.
Yeah, it's like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to solve Rubik's Cube, but they do it anyway for that possible final satisfaction at the end. It's like,
Right.
Like, oh, that was kind of fun when they figure it out or they give up. I've never finished the Rubik's Cube. I don't know.
Me either.
I don't know the satisfaction, but whatever.
So the next GM.
Yeah.
PVGM. Player versus Game Master. It seems like it's really fun for like wargamers. But I am not one of those. I like to play tactical, but I just it's not my style. But anyway, so these are the kind of GMs they try and outsmart, or they have all the pieces, so it's not that difficult. But they want to win, right? Like, how dare you kill him? Like it'd be like if I got upset, like, you killed Kieran, how dare you? But but I think many GMs would be like, no, like he was made to be killed or to be dealt, stuff by the party, or like his purpose is to facilitate the story and us having fun, not to kill you and
Absolutely
make you feel insignificant. So people they manipulate the rules, they metagame, or they're just like, oh, this would be a good thing, like against this weakness of the party, right? Which I think is fun from time to time because you want to challenge your players, right? Like I can't just keep throwing the same thing at you, because you guys are just gonna be like, yeah, we have a strategy, or we have like this certain build, and humanoids can't really touch us just because the certain abilities and stuff that they have, we synergize really well against, or blah blah blah. But sometimes that sort of thing, that sort of GM style harmonizes with hardcore players, people that want to challenge, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm just not into it. But even if I was, I feel like I'd be worried that I would just like make people feel unwelcome in my game, like I'm attacking them, right? And and I think, like we said before, like people get to play somebody who doesn't matter every day of their life, right? So cool. That's my thoughts. on that?
Player versus GM. Probably one of my least favorite GM types. Uh, I do not like GMs that are in the game to play against their players in a sense of uh, not necessarily trying to kill your players, but yeah, like you said, in that sense of they want to win. Because one, I don't understand necessarily what they want to win at, so it's logically confusing to me. It's like
Right.
I don't get what you get out of this. Why don't you just be a player? I don't see the point of you being a GM. I don't get it. So it's probably one of my least favorite styles of GMs. Um, and I do understand when you have a GM who does want to make it harder for the players, but I think that's a better way of doing it than being like, okay, it's you guys against me now. I think there's a better way of doing it. Like you said, so I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. I've had campaigns where everything's going good, we're going through and we're smacking stuff around, and then we get an enemy that, like maybe the last session or two, I was a druid and I'm lightning striking shit and setting stuff on fire. I'm decimating the enemy, and then we get an enemy maybe 2 or 3 sessions down the line that completely counters me. Like any spell that I could use, it would only work on one person, or the AoE is not really there, or there's too many enemies, or whatever it was. We're underwater and I can't use fire and lightning, or something along those lines, where it essentially hobbles me as a player,
Right.
and so the other players have to pick up my slack, and it makes it harder on them, and then
Right.
it makes me as a character go, holy shit, you know what I mean? I was a god last game. So I've had that GM style, and I like that because that's a GM that went, okay, I can see this was a little too easier for you, but I don't want to punish the other players because you were too good. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and hobble you a bit next campaign, and maybe you'll
Right.
learn a lesson. I did learn a lesson, so I think that was a good way of uh, GM versus player without
Right.
sucking in all of the other players who kind of weren't ready for that situation. If that makes sense.
Well, is there a difference between doing it once in a while? Because, I do it once in a while, right? I want to make things challenging and I mix
Yeah.
it up. I have a lot of like different kinds of bad guys that work together in unique ways. But I think there's a difference between like, oh,
Yeah.
this was really difficult, or this really countered me, but
Yeah.
making it feel plausible and not.
Absolutely.
I think the key is like knowing like
Yeah.
very over the top. It's like session after session of like
Yeah.
clear, like
Nope.
how like all the bad guys have
No. Yeah.
specific counters to all the characters, or
Yeah.
they
Absolutely.
act in unreasonable ways, or they just like, oh, it
Uh huh.
doesn't matter what you can do, like it's only difficult terrain for the enemies and not for you, and it's
Exactly.
like it right, it's just very adversarial. um,
Nope. Yeah. No player should have to come into a session, every week, essentially afraid of a TPK. You know
right.
what I mean? If you come into a game and you know that last session you put yourself in a situation, if you as the players put yourself in a situation where, okay, this could be really bad, we could all die. That's different than, all right, Thursday coming up. I guess let's get ready for this TPK, guys. If
Right.
that's happening every week, I think you've probably crossed that threshold. Not, obviously it's different for somebody like Jared who thinks we're going to die every game, but
Yeah.
for the most part, if you are in a situation where okay, you know what, we'll come out of this fine. That's no problem, guys. But if it's every game you're coming in like, oh, is this going to be the session that we all die? Then I think that's probably when you should, realize maybe I need to tone it back a little bit. If your
Right.
character's about dying, if they walk up to like a deer and they're afraid that somehow this deer is actually a magic fey king is gonna, transform and kill them all, you might have done something wrong at some point. But I think it's healthy to be cautious, but your players should not be scared, in my opinion.
Right.
They shouldn't be scared of you as a DM. Cautious, yes. But
Yes. Yeah. Um, you should be. And yeah, yeah. No, I dig that.
yeah,
And I think there are plenty of ways.
yeah,
Custom bad guys. I make
absolutely.
all sorts of custom bad guys.
Yeah,
Like, again, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but UNT, there's a couple
yeah,
people, right, that they're like, yeah, we're just gonna face, like it's the same old, we're just gonna fight. It's like you've only fought patrols. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like you're just like tip of the iceberg, guys. Like
This is
I'm
true.
I'm excited, right?
And the
Uh,
UNT is like varying difficulties for different people in the party. Like
yeah,
Edmund has no problem fighting the UNT, especially when he gets up close. But somebody like Felix, who gets taken out from afar without really much he could do, it's a very different type of situation for him.
right,
So I think that's a good balance right there. Where hey, some players may excel, others may almost die 6 times. So I think
right.
I definitely like that.
But you also know, right, as players and characters,
Yeah.
you have that information of this is like before
Yeah.
things start changing up, you know what a UNT is and kind of
Yes.
roughly what they can do, like what their
Yes.
maybe natural traits are. Like you have information,
Absolutely.
and I think that's the key, right? Between like
Yes.
a PVGM and
Hmm.
a somebody that's just more punishing, like
Hmm.
the world builder or something like that, where you're giving information, right? But
Exactly.
you're not just like, here, read this handout, just like
Yeah.
mind diarrhea. It's like,
Absolutely.
shit, we fought those guys, they're super tough. And
Yeah.
so it's like, and that was just the patrols, like, so it's
Yeah.
like being cautious, right, of like
Exactly.
what is to come.
It's like we should have learned from it shouldn't have been just something to scare us and we run away and never come back. No, we should have learned from that fight. Like I know that there's gonna be some poison if we're up close. They're gonna try to bite us and poison us. I know they can hit us from afar pretty good with an arrow. I know they can attack multiple times. I know they got a certain amount of speed. They can see in the dark. There's yeah, like you said, there's stuff that we should have learned to where we don't need to. We need to be cautious because we've run into them before. We need to be cautious, but we shouldn't be scared. Like if that makes sense, we shouldn't be scared to go into the swamp and be like, okay, let's strategize and try to kill these UNT. There shouldn't be
Right.
a fear there, but there should be a healthy caution of, hey, we know what they can do now. Let's prepare accordingly.
And we're also level 6.
Yeah, and that too.
So it's like you guys have learned, gained some knowledge, some
Exactly.
some
We
other
didn't- we
things, right? So
We didn't almost die for nothing.
right.
Yeah.
So it was freaky, but you guys made it. It was dramatic. It was cool. You learned a bunch of information, and now you're going back
Yeah.
to finish the job. So
Yeah.
um. Anyway,
Absolutely.
so this is my let's see, is this my last one?
Okay.
I might have one more after this. So the next one, like the forced GM or like just the lonely player, right? He's not really a game master. He doesn't really want to. I say he, but they don't really want to. They just want to play, and the only way for them to play, because they don't have friends or they don't have whatever that can facilitate that, is they go online, right? They start running games or they do whatever, and really they just want to play, but they don't want to actually run a game.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever actually run into that GM style before. That may actually be a new one for me. Because I've had GMs where it's like their first time GMing, but they wanted to do it. It was something like, hey, I've been playing for a while. I wanted to give this a try. This is my first time, so be nice essentially. But I don't think I've ever had a GM that sorry, I was watching you pointing in the camera. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Trying to point the right way, but it didn't work out. 'Cause it's like
Gotcha.
opposite. It's
Yeah.
like, really?
But yeah, exactly. I've never had that GM that didn't. I've never had a GM that didn't want to GM.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, or if they did, at least I didn't know about it. So I don't know. I've never actually run into that one before. It's that's a new one for me.
And what Pearly's saying, yeah, I was gonna transition into that recurring thing on this on the show here. GMPC, gross. I think there are many attributes that separate a GMPC from an NPC. NPC is fine.
Yeah.
GMPC, I find it distasteful.
Yeah.
Perhaps if you got a good social contract going and you're doing like a one-on-one game or like whatever, but even then, I don't agree with it.
Very rarely, like if a GM has like a player, if something important is happening, and a GM knows like a player is going to be maybe gone for the next 2 sessions because they're going to be out of town. Hey, I'm going to give you guys this guy from the town, maybe a fighter or something from this town. He's going to help you out. He's going to help you out for the time being until you get your other player back, and then we're going to go back to the so on. So if it's something like accepted and premeditated, because I've had that before, but it's something that definitely has to be everybody's cool with it, because we want you to focus on being the GM, not a player. Which one do you want to do? Know, so I agree with that. But if it's accepted, but
I think it depends if you are making that GMPC, if you're giving them agency, right, and you're giving them like they're taking the spotlight, they're doing this and that, right? So, right, again, what separates it just from an NPC, right? There's there's ways that you can do it, I think, but when in the fashion we're talking about a GMPC that is actually trying to be a player character for like a good chunk or the entirety of a campaign, I just find it's very distasteful, and players generally don't like it as well, especially if there's the one that's getting all the magic items and they're just like the most broken, and it's like
it's gross. Not to bring up Matt Mercer again, but I think he does a good version of GM NPCing. Because of course he has his regular NPCs, but then of course last season, hopefully no spoilers for anybody, he had characters like Gilmore or what were the 2 female characters' name? One was a paladin, the other was a sorceress. Kima and Kima's girlfriend. I can't the blonde, whose name I can't think of right now. But these were, I know, right? But these were multiple reoccurring characters who have actually physically helped the player characters like in battle. You know what I mean? Gilmore's throwing a fireball, and Kima's smited, and you don't watch Critical Role. Well, whatever. Screw you. But no, just kidding. But these are I think good ways to have a GM play a character to help out when he knows something's going to be really hard, but he also knows when he's going to say, okay, guys, you go down there and I'm going to go this way and see if there's any more enemies, and split off, because he kind of knows where you're going to go. He doesn't want the NPC to steal the spotlight. So I think just bringing it up, that's, I think, a good way to do it. If anybody has ever seen Matt Mercer do that, that's a good way to do a GM NPC.
But again, NPC, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's good because what it does is it takes these difficult scenarios that the players probably could not do, and it makes them more plausible. Because you see, he uses it like he parts the seas, right? He uses these NPCs to make way for the heroes to do their thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's a good way to use it if you're enabling the players to be heroes and do the cool stuff in the Pulp Fiction and everything. But if you're like, this guy is going to be
No, he's going to be the... No,
that's when you cross the line, I think.
Yeah. And sometimes even the players, like in that game, they give some magical items to some of the NPCs. Hey, we can use this sword. It's a really good sword. Here you go, Kima. She uses it later to kind of help them out. I think, something like that, I think is really good. Especially when it comes to play in later and you forget about, she draws this silver sword and it would ornate, like, oh yeah, I remember when we gave that to her, and then it ends up helping out later in that fight. I think something like that is pretty cool. So
Also, too, because the players like discovered it and like it was their initiative to do that.
exactly.
Right? So it's like
Exactly.
it's not like
They made that decision.
I gift myself a nice shiny, like the people that buy themselves a Christmas gift and a birthday gift, right? It's kind of like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I got this for myself, guys.
So
Like
forced.
You're sad.
Forced GMs, or like lonely players, if you will, that are GMing. I find their campaigns are kind of all over the place, right? They're very unorganized because they just want to play, right? So and they don't want to put the effort in, but they want to get some people together and they want to play. So but I think this style is kind of cool in the sense that it's very player focused because they want to be a player. So it's like they're taking the stuff that they want to do as a player and they're sticking it in there. But one shots, great. Like little short adventures, like couple sessions, great.
Sure.
But any sort of long-term meaningful game, I find they don't want to make those details. So if you're looking for that style, right, like the long-term meaningful game, I just don't think they have the foresight. Not the foresight. I don't want to say make it seem like they're not intelligent. It's just they're not putting in the effort because they don't want to.
Right.
But I have seen on the internet, I've seen some of these, and I try and welcome people to come. I was doing a lot of one shots there for a while, and I like when people GM, but if you don't want to, that's okay too. I don't feel like it's a natural progression. Like, oh, I play, therefore, eventually, when I get enough player experience, I'll level up to GM. I just think some people like that, and some people don't.
Yeah, I got you. I definitely understand. Yeah.
Who knows? I feel sorry for those GMs.
Yeah, that's just kind of forced, huh? I don't think I've ever had that type of GM, but it's interesting though.
Right. Sorry.
Is that on your list?
I think that like the one more is like the crazy GM, right? It's just like everything is like 100% Funhouse Dungeon. It's like overly homebrew just because like we like 5th edition for whatever reason, and then we're like, we're gonna be like these weird anime characters. Like the whole universe is like entirely like homebrew. Everything's crazy. Everybody's like it is so chaotic that's like it's literally like, okay, everybody is a normal human. There's no shield in the world, and we're just fucking letting loose like all the Marvel heroes and villains against the whole world. Like they're just gonna like fucking like a swarm of locusts across the surface of the planet.
Drop a bomb on the world,
and which again, I think those kind of games, they're pretty fun. They're pretty fun when it's like a Funhouse Dungeon or it's like a once-off kind of thing. But like, that's it, right? I don't personally get anything from those kind of games besides, oh hey, that was kind of fun for a little bit, but
I think one of my favorite GMs, and this was probably I think my longest campaign. It was like a year and something. She eventually became the type of like she was a brand new GM. We were the first campaign she ever GM'd, and she was at first she was kind of that. I'm going to step back and see how you guys play, and I'm not going to be very rules lawyery. So she had that at first, and then she's like, okay, I got a feel for you guys. Hey, so these are going to be the rules from here on. And then it got to a point where she was like, I don't know if you remember that Bill O'Reilly old video. I guess the prompter or something wasn't working, and he was, fuck it, we're doing it live. We're doing it live. I don't know if you remember that video or not.
No, I don't.
But, I look it up on YouTube. It is probably the best thing Bill O'Reilly's ever done, but it's fucking hilarious. But it was like we were starting the campaign, and she was like, you know what? Fuck it. This is going off the top of my head. We're doing it live. Let's go. She was like, all right, so this is what's happening. It was a good thing because it was at that moment that she just you just saw it just all like just kind of come off her shoulders, and she just let loose, she stopped with all the heavy planning and the heavy NPCs and all, and she just let loose and just
whatever
like, all right,
it is,
guys,
it's not right.
fuck it, we're gonna take it from the top, and we're gonna do it like this, or we're not gonna do it like this anymore. We're just gonna let's go crazy. You know what I mean? So it was fun in a sense because it was fun to see her loosen up, and that in turn loosened us up. Like, oh, okay, all right. And this was 3.5. And to this day, because of that, and because of her letting loose like that, and being able and like almost physically seeing that weight of just being this perfect GM just kind of shed off her shoulders, that has been my favorite addition, and she's been one of my favorite GMs since then. Just because she just seeing that. I don't know if you've ever seen someone physically go from being kind of meh to having all the fun in the world.
Yeah, just and, like the and
exactly.
I totally get it. I love 3.5. Yeah. I just don't have it in me anymore, right? And that's why I like 5th edition is because it's so easy. It's not like I would go back and fucking play 3.5 right now, but because I've had such a break from it. But it's like 5th edition is popular. I just like it, and I totally get it. That is mostly why I don't run a 3.5 game right now.
That release was great. It's great. It was great to see just that. You know what? Okay, guys. I'm back. I'm better, and I'm back. And that amount of fun. That is what I feel like. That moment is what D&D, being a GM and having a good connection with your players is supposed to be. To where it's just, you know what? Let's have fun, guys. Just that final moment that hits you. Let's get in here. Let's have fun. Let's make this a good campaign. When the rules are needed, let's throw them rules in. But until then, fuck it. Let's have fun. And and she was that type of GM. Like if it was something that needed a rule, she had no problem giving a call on it. Hey, the rules say this, we're not going to do that, or try again this way, so on and so forth. But for the most part, she'd be like, yeah, no, go ahead, do it, I don't care. So, and that was amazing to see. I think that's something every player I think should experience. If you are a GM, that is an experience you should try to give one player in your tenure of being a GM at least once. That
crazy.
That crazy. That just seeing you go. You know what, guys? Fuck it. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Right. Just once in a campaign, even if it's just going to be for one session. Hey, guys, let's do it. Because that's all it was. It was really only one session that she did that, and then she kind of went back to a more structured, still fun and still crazy. But it was just at that one time where she was like, you know what? I had something planned for today. And she did. She had stuff planned and settled and all that. And I literally heard her rip up her papers. She just tore up her paper. Fuck it. We're not doing this. We're doing it live. Fuck it. Let's do it. And that's what we did. And it was
I don't know
the
whatever
best.
it is, it's not right on
it
a
was
teleprompter.
The best.
I don't know what that is. I've never seen
that. I think, every DM should do that with their players every once in a while to show them that, hey, it's,
Now, I
was a player
there's
like
no
you
words
guys
on
at one point in time as well. This is what I would have wanted to see, and I'm going to give that to you guys. We're going to have fun.
There's no words there to play us out.
I miss her.
What does that mean, to play us out?
She ended up getting like a government job or something like that, so she had to end the game. But
that sucks.
Yeah. So, but it was fun while it lasted, and the memories will always be there. I wouldn't want to change. I wouldn't any other way. Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna go ahead and play this Bill O'Reilly Goes Nuts video.
Sting is
it's good.
What is?
And it was just like that.
I don't know what that means, to play us out. What does that mean?
Yeah.
To end the show?
Yeah.
We can't end the show.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
In 5, 4.
Oh man, he looks pissed.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4,
I've
3.
thought this many a time.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Okay, yeah, that
Oh, yeah,
was
that's good.
that was pretty much how it was. Fuck, we're doing it live.
Fuck it.
Fuck
So-
it, let's fucking rip the papers up. We're doing it live. Let's do it. And that good old Bill O'Reilly moment. So every GM
Yeah.
should have a Bill O'Reilly moment where they just go off script and say fuck it.
There was actually in the camera some you. I have one shot I've wanted to run for a while. In my campaign, I love Vecna and the Circle of Eight, so I have they've touched like all different pieces of the planet, and I would love to run a one shot, like a crazy one shot, where it's like back in the Age of Awakening, and it's like just fucking level 20 characters, and I just throw like the Battle of Vecna, like everything epic, just like a 1 session or a 2 session, like fucking free for all. Be amazing.
Do it live and go crazy.
Do it live. All right.
Most definitely. So yeah.
So that was like one topic, and that's like holy crap. So we're gonna shift gears here. So
Yeah.
transitioning, right,
Mm-hmm.
is talking about, diverse different types of GMs, right? And none are necessarily good or bad. It's really a preference. Most people fall somewhere 2, 3, even 4. Like there's an amalgamation of something going on, right? But in general, diversity, in role-playing games, right? Something that I know you are kind of passionate about. You really want to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me move my my stuff here, but
Gotcha.
yeah. So take it away. Diversity in role-playing games. How do we get more people involved? What are the issues, etc.? What's on your mind?
So, in case any listeners haven't realized, I am an African American male.
What?
As I know, right? It's crazy. Very large black man with dreads. So it's
Do you actually have dreads?
yeah, I have locks.
Oh, my
They're called
God.
locks if you ever seen them. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
that
they're
sounds
long and down my
amazing.
back.
Fucking lovely. I mean, like, obviously, I knew you were black, but like, I did, I don't have I don't have a visual, so I'm so happy now.
No, I got you.
I
I
feel
got
like
you. Mind
Yeah.
blown. Yeah, I know. So, D&D. I had only heard about D&D maybe 5 years ago. I want to say 2013 to 2014. Probably 2013, I'll say. And it was from a white friend of mine who I was working on the railroad with him. I'm not talking about the song. I literally used to work on the railroad. And he had
All
said
fun
something.
day.
Something like that. And he had said mentioned we were playing like Minecraft or something. I don't know why 2 adult men were playing Minecraft in an apartment alone, but whatever. That's not creepy. And he mentioned something about D&D. He's like, yeah, me and my friends played, Dungeons and Dragons on Saturdays or something like that. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking? What is Dungeons and Dragons? What is that? He's like, what? You never heard of D&D? And so he was surprised that I'd never heard of D&D, and I was surprised of what D&D was. So he pretty much, he explained it to me, and he went over it. So this is how this goes, and there's different editions, and it's theater of the mind, and use your imagination, and so on and so forth. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. This sounds like some crazy white people shit. Okay, cool. So I didn't play at that time, but about a year later, I was in a program, moved away from the railroad, and I went to AmeriCorps, which is a essentially it's the states side version of uh, the Peace Corps. Essentially, it's like the Peace Corps except in America. So I did that, and I had a couple friends who were nerdish, and they had mentioned D&D, and I was like, you know what? I heard of this before, but I never played. So they got a group together of me. I think it was another African American kid, another mixed girl, and then three white guys. And so for the most part, none of us had really heard of D&D except for maybe two of the players. And so it was explained, and we played, and I was like, how did I miss this 25 years of my life? This is
I'm super surprised. How do you
how do you
how do you not know about it? Like, I didn't play until I was in high school, but like I knew about it from a young age.
Never.
I didn't even have relatives or friends that played it. I just I thought that was common knowledge. So no, that's crazy.
It was I grew up in. If anyone wants to know where I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. Very much grew up in the hood, and tabletop games are not our thing. So I think I just so happened to be super nerdy, like fantasy books and Forgotten Realms. Dritz Duerden is, one of my favorite Forgotten Realms characters. He was actually the model for one of my first ever D&D characters, who was a Drow Elf Ranger. So
yeah, there's a lot of those.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. So I of course I thought it was unique because the game was very new to me. So it was, I guess it was kind of at that time I realized, wow, how did I never hear about this? And how many kids were there like me who had never heard about this? You know what I mean? Would never heard of D&D or something like that. I think now it's a lot more known. I'm sure, Critical Role has a hugely diverse audience. Because being kind of a nerd and being a geek or something like that is a lot more mainstream now. At the time when I was in high school, it was not. So I think the exposure is definitely there, but I think just kind of letting kids know that it is okay to be different in that aspect. You know what I mean? Like, because when I used to read fantasy books, I used to hide that shit. You know what I mean? I never let somebody at my school see me reading a Forgotten Realms book. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that gets your backpack snatched. So, I always had to kind of hide my nerdiness. You know what I mean? And obviously that is not hugely a thing that happens anymore, but it's still there. So,
Right.
I would say, hey, just don't give a shit what people think and just do it. If you're of African American descent, Mexican, Indian, Native American, Indigenous, whatever, this is a game for all of us, no matter, where you grow up, who you're friends with, your social status, nothing like that. It's just a bunch of nerds coming together and playing despite any of our differences. So I think that's definitely that's a good message, right?
Man.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely, dude. I mean, I'm still reeling, I'm imagining you with dreads. It's not what I pictured in my mind, but anyway, so yes. Anybody that's in my games, I tell people it's 95% white dudes, but I want people that are diverse in my games because they bring cool new perspectives to the table, and also I want people to feel welcome, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't know, how do we get that message out there, right? I wish if I was a millionaire, no lie, I would love to just go to places that are impoverished or whatever with nothing but D&D stuff, or maybe just drop backpacks, that have people be like, oh, I gotta snatch this backpack, and then they open it up, to their surprise it's just a bunch of D&D shit, and they're like, man, what the fuck is this? And they're like, yeah, let's do this, right? So
absolutely. It's definitely I agree. I wish more people were open. I think this is probably one of my favorite things about Critical Role is that I think it reaches an audience it had never reached before, and that includes people in more urban communities. They have had plenty of African American and Hispanic, I think, players on the show. You know what I mean? Who have a voice in those different communities. One of my favorite characters is Shakasta from this, season 2, who is very much, he has very much a black thing going on. You know what I mean? And he's very soulful, and he's very, and I like that. And me myself personally, if I think outside of Throm, every character that I play is an African American character. You know what I mean? Any
Right.
photo that I try to find or whatnot, and this for all of my games, any photos that I try to find of African American characters that match that viewpoint of what I want to show, to say, hey, we don't all need to be tall, white, pointy-eared elves, or something like that. Yeah, we can have some black elves. We can have
Yeah, man.
obviously
Why
not like troll elves, but black elves. We can have some black gnomes. We can have some
Yeah.
black barbarians. Absolutely. So
If
I like to, in every game, bring that, because I know when I go into the game, I'm the only black guy in this game. I know that I am, and that's no problem. But I at least want everybody to see, hey, I'm the only black guy in this game. I'm gonna play a black character. I mean, and I never have an issue. It's never been an issue of,
right.
hey, why are you using a black character? I've never had that issue. I've never, and this is one of my favorite things about D&D, I've never run into an issue of intolerance in a D&D game. I can't speak on everybody, but I've never run into an issue of intolerance in a D&D game. And I let it be known, hey, hey, I'm a black guy. I am, absolutely. And I get a lot of rural country like DMs. One of my DMs on Sunday is, kind of a redneck from Oklahoma, and awesome dude. Never had, we've never had an issue. We may even be, he could have voted for Trump for all I know or care, but we've never had an issue of intolerance. And so I really like that about Dungeons and Dragons, that is open to everybody. Everybody just doesn't know about it. It's open to everybody, but everybody doesn't know it's open to everybody.
Right. Absolutely. So. In a world where you can be a fucking dragon man, you can be an elf or a gnome or a fucking troll, right? Mm-hmm. What's being black, right?
Exactly.
So it's not just like it's not breaking anything, right? It's not
exactly.
So
it's not like being a fucking Githyanki or something. Like Gith. Now that's gross.
If you that.
Yeah, exactly.
So. And now maybe just stepping back here from the intolerance, because I've personally never seen it either. I've heard like the rumors like with like sexism, right, in games. I've never seen it, and I hope it never happens. And if I were to ever see that in a game I played in or ran, I would I would have a stern talking to with those players, and if it ever happened again, I would never run a game for them again. Like they would be instantly gone. But anyway. Absolutely. Stepping back from just the intolerance, what about like getting people into it? Like how do you market this? Like because I feel personally, right? But again, I'm a white male, but it allows me to step out of my white maleness and go into different things. Like I can explore like, oh, I'm like being a woman NPC, or like I'm like a different sexuality or whatever, right? Because we're just exploring, we're having fun, right?
Exactly.
But how much of that allows people to explore themselves, right? So like maybe you're a black guy, and there's all like maybe you're like me, you live in Maine, and we see like one in our lifetime, right? And when you're so like it's so vast in one direction, does it allow you to just kind of like either be yourself or discover yourself, like, oh, this is like the kind of person like I would like to be, or like to embrace some of those qualities about yourself? I don't know, I feel like it's a safe avenue. Is that, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, if you've ever had to
let's see. Well, to answer your question of how do we bring more awareness, I think people like myself who have kind of fallen into this lifestyle, I guess is the best way to put it, the D&D lifestyle, can speak out to and for the younger generation of minorities, so to speak, to to let them know, hey, it's okay, have fun. Look, here's a game where you use your imagination, and here's how it goes. Google it, look up stuff, and you'll find out more about it and have fun. I think, and here's I want to give a little insider to the of the Black community. A lot of times, and actually this is most of the time, you have guys who are typical, thug looking like guys, you know what I mean? The baggy pants and the shirts and the do-rags, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But they have some of the most oddly unique interests that you'd look at and be like, what? Really? So, and it's like, I've run into guys like that who have a shelf like Forgotten Realms or something like that, or Robin Hobb or some fantasy books, or they talk about weird stuff like somebody who you just saw sell somebody a bag of weed to turn around and start talking about astrophysics. It's like, what?
Right.
What do you know about Neil deGrasse Tyson?
I
So
was
it's like,
just about to say that. I was like, what?
yeah, it's like, what?
Neil?
What do you know about? So, and so there's a lot of knowledge of this stuff out there, but I think it's just people in my community don't really have time for it. You know what I mean? Like, I have time for D&D because I happen to a good job that is outside of the norm, that gives me the schedule and the funds to kind of have free time on my hand like that. But most people in urban impoverished areas, they're working 2 or 3 jobs, they have kids, they have families to take care of, they don't really have time to sit and play a game of D&D, because if they have free time to play D&D, they have free time to be out hustling somewhere, you know what I mean, somehow, some way, every hour of the day making money. So I think it's hard to advertise to a demographic that is they're more focused on, and rightfully so, definitely more focused on having a come up than they are on playing D&D. I just don't think it's something that, and then maybe they may look at him like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's nice, but I don't really have time for that. I need to get out here and make money. So it's just it all depends on how you grew up. I grew up in a family where literature and using my imagination was more than needing to be rich or something like that. You know what I mean? That was the point of my parents. Like my father always said, the point of me working so hard is so you don't have to. So I think as minorities get more and more financial freedom, and less out of impoverished areas, I think we will naturally gravitate towards tabletop games and stuff along things along those lines, where we normally would not be. So I think it's something. So I say all that to say I think it's something that will happen naturally. I think it'll be something that if we catch a kid who who's being bullied for something like that, say, hey, no, have fun with this. Don't worry about the rest of them. Try this out. But I think it's something that will happen naturally. Happen naturally for me. I think it's happening more naturally. It happened with anime. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Anime, I mean that went from strictly Japanese to
0
more
to
Caucasian
60 and
now. Now black kids love anime. We talk about. I mean, we grew up on Dragon Ball Z.
oh hell yeah.
You will very rarely find a black kid who has not heard or grew up on Dragon Ball, who won't tell you everything there is to know about Dragon Ball Z or Yu Yu Hakusho, Naruto.
Good one.
All those. My personal favorite was Tenchi Muyo.
Ooh,
Which
that's a good one.
Tenchi
That's
Muyo.
good.
That was my first peek into a harem like show. So but and we but you see how that kind of blew up. You know, the African American community loves anime now, and it
Yeah.
was just something that had to happen over time as we got freedom to really delve into that stuff. So I think the same can be said for D&D. It's something that time will fix,
Yeah.
and
And
allow more.
I think you know, accessibility in other ways too, right? I'm not gonna lie, pen and paper D&D is super expensive, right?
Yeah.
You know, unless you
Fine.
can, if you can get older editions of the book, okay,
Mhm.
go for it. But like if you want to get any of the modules, if you do this and that, it's
Yeah.
like you're paying big bucks, man.
Man,
So
big
like
bucks.
talking now, right? You can get online. You got things like Roll20. You got things like if you have an internet connection, you know, it
It's much
opens
easier.
up
Yeah.
these free avenues. D&D Beyond, right? You
It's
got way
D&D. Sorry.
yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing. So anyway, you can do all these neat things for free, right? And I think that opens up because you know most people have a phone, right? You can have Discord on your phone,
Absolutely.
right? And I think that as some of these technologies become cheaper, more accessible,
Much
it becomes
yeah.
less about the finance and more about the time, which I still
Exactly.
think is a big factor in finding
Mhm.
people to play. But again, I think that too is like you can go on the Roll20 forums, right? And you can find a big group
Yeah.
of people and hopefully find a corner of the internet to fit in. But no, I think it is like, I don't know. I wish I could like teach it like
Mhm.
in a school, right? I wish I could be
Yeah.
like, all right, class, today we're talking about character building. Like,
Absolutely. That'd be a good thing. I think,
you know?
schools should have like D&D clubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every school has like a chess club or diversity clubs and glee club and debate club. There
Theater
should be
club, drama.
there should be a
Kinda
D&D
fits in.
club, for
Yeah.
people who want a tabletop. And like I said, the books and that stuff and modules are expensive if you're doing a tabletop like that. I remember originally when I first started, and I wanted everything. I wanted to buy everything when
Yeah.
I first started to play. I was like, I want the books. I want the best die. I want metal die. I want the box to
Minis.
roll them in. Yeah, I want 6 different types of die to roll depending on the character that I play, and I want this. I want that. And so I know when I get into something like that, I want the best of the best for it. I want everything to come with it. Which that's my own privilege that I need to check growing up in a upper middle class system. But also, that was illegal drug sales that got me there. But that's neither here nor there. So
we won't talk about that on
yeah,
the stream. It never happened.
We'll edit
Someone
that
scrubbed
out.
the video.
No, but definitely, like I said, once money is no longer an option or issue, once time is no longer an issue, it'll just be a matter of exposure. And like I said, people like me, or maybe a lot more famous than me, obviously, who go out and give that exposure more, like the people of Critical Role who go to all the cons, Comic-Con and TwitchCon, and who go to all the cons and expose themselves to larger audiences. I mean, the audience for Critical is hundreds of thousands of people, and I guarantee you a good amount of them are probably African American now, who had never heard of this game. So I think something that's just going to grow with time, technology, and financial stability.
Yeah. So just because I'm looking at the clock, it's 9:38.
Okay.
This is a good talk. What I kind of want to get into, again, it's relating to this, is right, talking about we want people to be welcome, we want people to be exposed. Again, we want all shapes, sizes, creeds, colors, etc. in our games. So, what ways, coming from somebody who's African American, that's a little bit different than the white male mold. How do people make you feel comfortable? What ways can players and GMs, like, how can we make you feel welcome?
I think something, and this is something I think every group already does. One, keep your politics to yourself for the most part. Because that's always that could be a huge issue. I've seen some stuff fall apart for that. Keep your politics to yourself. I so far have not had any with racism within the D&D community, which I'm proud to say. Like I said, sexism, completely different thing. I've seen that a lot, but I've actually felt fairly welcome in as far as the D&D community goes. It's not like a college application, or not a college application, a job application. You have to put your race on the application, for everybody to see. Most people don't know. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of you getting to be you. Like I'm just Eric, and I just so happen to be African American, which most people wouldn't know if I did not tell them. So it's just, I don't know. I think, if you keep your politics to yourself, just just don't be an asshole. You know what I mean? Most people become naturally comfortable with you if you are not an asshole, or at the very least, be good at being an asshole. You know what I mean?
Be an asshole to everybody, kind of.
Essentially, there's
So if there's one message you get from this, it's be an asshole to everybody.
Exactly. Be an asshole the right way. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have a how to be more welcoming, because I think as far as the community goes, everybody is fairly welcoming. It's probably one of the most tolerant communities I've walked straight into. So, I will say maybe draw more African American fan art. That's a way to do it.
There you go. Yeah.
Because I have trouble finding certain races and classes that are black. So do more of that.
Yeah, I concur.
Put it on Pinterest.
Actually, Lady Soliana is black.
Lady Soliana. Was that her?
Kieran's,
was that
Kieran's priest? Yes.
Oh, Soliana. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, so not that you would know that by seeing her very small, like mini, but she is.
See.
Anyway, so I mean, I have a couple of tips and tricks. For one, if you have people that already feel like an outsider, right? If you got people of different, creeds, races, whatever, sexes, don't make their player or their player character, I should say, don't oppress them in a way that's, I'm not just talking about being an asshole, but being like, oh, you are the outsider in the game. Like, they already feel like an outsider in real life. Don't, like, put that label on them in the game. Like, even if it's, like, not having to, it doesn't pertain to, like, a racial thing. Unless, like, this is what they want. Sometimes people want to explore that, but don't be like, oh, well, if you pick this thing, like, you're going to be considered an outsider. It's like, they'll probably just be like, I already am an outsider. So, like, you want to make people feel welcome. So that's kind of tip number one. I would say for people like that. And in terms of, like, sexism, I've only seen, like, a minute amount of it. I haven't seen, like, the darkest depths of the internet. I mean, I've heard stories, but personally. So as a DM, for one, try not to have the female, like, when there's a female, don't always make them evil. I find that, like, a lot, like, it's kind of unintentional, but it'll always be like, the female's the thief, the female, you know what I mean? Like, make a powerful woman that is a good woman. Like, you don't need to make, like, every single one, like, you can if you want to. There's, but, set that example. Be like, there are powerful women that are successful in this setting that they don't take no shit. Like, there's nothing wrong with them. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Little things like that, which you might not think of. It might not be a conscious thought, but sometimes people slip into that, I find. And again, we're trying to make people feel more welcome. So,
be more comfortable. Quit being a bunch of unsocial nerds. That's
right. Be social. Nerds.
Yeah. Be social, you fucking rejects.
How dare you?
Exactly.
What did you say about my mother?
No, you've never touched a woman, but be kind. No, that's okay. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
in game is
No.
not meant to be the first time. Because
Exactly. You weirdo. You weirdos.
fucking weirdos. So hold on. So
Mhm.
I kind of want to wrap up on a good note here. I mean, I feel like
Gotcha.
it was a good note. I feel like it could have been a little more sour, but
Cool. Oh, we didn't get to
Anyway.
do a coolest character moment.
oh, that's what it is right now. Are you watching right now?
Oh yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Coolest player moment. I
Coolest
just looked
player
at the-
moment. So that can be player. What I want to talk about is character and player. Most of the
Okay.
time, those go hand in hand, but sometimes you're like, oh, it didn't happen to my character, but it's like, or whatever. So I'll let you take the stage. So what do you think, man? What's your
Okay.
coolest character PC moment, and what's your coolest player moment?
So the coolest character moment was, and it was my, of course, it was my own. Oh crap! I feel like I have two of them, but whatever. I'll go with the first one. It was my first character ever. My Dritz Stewart carbon copy. I was playing a ranger, and we were in this town that was essentially being occupied by goblins and orcs, and we had gone through these tunnels and come up this trap door, and we were in this store, or we were under this store, and I was able to peek out, and I rolled pretty good on perception. And this is when I first started to play, so I didn't really know how combat worked at first, but it turned out cool. So I push this trap door open a little bit. I peek out. I can see a goblin down on one end, and on the other end, I can see and hear like two more goblins. And so, I convey that message to my party. I'm go, as they're below me. And so, I tell the DM, okay, I want to try something. And so he's like, well, go ahead and we'll make some rolls and see if it works. So it's like, okay. So I push off and I burst up from the trapdoor. I take two of my daggers and I toss them at the two goblins. And I spin, grab my scimitar, and I toss it at the third goblin. Actually, yeah, that's what it was. And he's like, all right, make this roll, and this roll, and roll the damage for them. And I came up and I did that. And I guess I rolled pretty good. Again, at the time I was super new, so I didn't really know what I was doing. So I ended up killing the two goblins with the dagger throw. The scimitar throw pinned the other goblin, and I was able to rush up and finish it off. And then I leapt over the counter, and I pulled my bow, and then I killed a goblin that was on a rooftop. And then another goblin was next to him, was shot at me, and I ducked and flipped and dodged it, and then shot him and killed that one. And then that led to a much worse ass whooping for us as a party later down the line. But in that moment, it was like a mixture of good rolls and that was my first experience with like the rule of cool.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of theater and good rolls, and it was an amazing moment for me because I was like, oh, this is going great. This is how I imagine this game being played. And I still like picture that moment in my head, like how I know rules now. I'd never get away with that. We'd be in initiative so fast, it'd be ridiculous. But just at that moment of being a new player and having that moment, my character do this amazing thing that I pictured 1,000 times reading the books that I've read. I've pictured 100,000
Absolutely.
times, you know what I mean? And to be able to see it in my head and happen and have everybody at the table see it happen how they want to in their head was pretty pivotal moment for me when it comes to D&D. So that is my favorite player character moment.
Sounds like a lot of fun, man.
It was
Oh,
great.
Man, I love
It
stuff
was-
like that.
That led to an intense battle with a bunch of orcs that I don't think we died, but we did get our ass whooped pretty badly. But yeah, it led to a really intense battle. But I took out a lot of goblins in that town. So yeah, it was great. Those are the first 6, and that was like in just a couple of seconds. It was really fun.
That's awesome, man.
It was really fun. All right. So, and the next was the coolest player moment. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess to elaborate, what do you mean by player?
So it was, I guess what I'm saying is, like right? A PC like your experience, but like as a player, like it doesn't even necessarily need to be like a scene like you just described. It's like, oh, dude, like this one player thought of this super clever thing, and like the scenario happened, or where I wasn't involved, or like whatnot, or it could even be like, oh, like I did something as a player that was, I made this person feel welcome, or like I something like it.
Yeah.
It's very. I'm kind of being vague about it because I'm just curious
don't know
what
the-
comes to
I got
mind
you.
when I say that.
Yeah.
And if it's nothing, then so be it. But
Two things come to mind. I'll it was in a different game, and this was something between me and another player. In this campaign, I played my first evil character. I played a lawful evil sorcerer tiefling named Dracorvus. He had a bit of a Cajun accent like this. Call everybody a couillon, see? And that was my character. He was just this saucy saucy Cajun tiefling, and
Gambit.
yeah, essentially,
Gambit is my
he's a simply
literally my
Gambit.
favorite.
Yeah, call
Anyway.
people share and all. Come on now, share. Don't be like that. And it was probably till this day one of my favorite characters, but he did not get along at all with another player's character who happened to be a paladin. And she was a female player, and she was awesome. Her brother was a DM. He was amazing. It was an amazing, and I think they did well in tolerating my my evil character, and who I think I played pretty well as far as evil characters go. I didn't do anything to I did a lot of things to fuck over the party. I did a lot of it. That was one of the moments of being an asshole, but in a good way. And so my favorite player moment was of the girl player. Pretty much the deciding moment where she decided, yeah, I'm gonna kill you now. It was the deciding moment where she was like, you know what, this kind of gone too far, and I'm gonna hit him. This is it. We're fighting to the death. And so I was like, and the shock on my face is, I was like, wait, what?
This can happen.
I'm like, wait, huh? And Dale's like, oh, that's what. It's like, okay. It's like, so it was. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? There's no way that my sorcerer is about to beat a paladin. Sorry. If I was maybe at range or something like that, I maybe could have, brought her down. You know what I mean? But I like the fact that it literally got into that boiling point. And like I said, we were fine as players, but in character, she was like, yeah, I think this is it. I think this is his boiling point. You have to die now. And and so it was at that moment she was like, yeah, no, I draw my sword and I hit him. And she critted on the first strike. And it was a beautiful moment. It was a great fight. I almost killed her. I ended up losing because people ended up intervening. I almost actually won, which was great in itself, but she ended up getting healed by an NPC. But anyway, it was it was just a great moment seeing that flip switch, seeing her flip that switch. Like, I had been just torturing her with this character for session after session, and this game lasted almost a year, just torturing her character, doing everything I could to just be an asshole to her character, to the point where he was like, yeah, you know what? No, fuck that. It's time to die. And so that was probably my favorite player moment, just seeing her just go fuck it and finally get her revenge. Ended up being resurrected by a spider priestess that I slept with, but
There you go, man.
yeah, I mean, I was, Gambit likes the ladies, what can I say, Kuyon? So it was that moment where she just like, to this day, I still love that moment. I wish I still was her friend on Discord so I could bring it up, but I think I accidentally deleted that Discord because she was awesome. I might have to search her up, but yeah, that was probably my favorite moment. She was a great player, and that was just a good deciding moment for a character to just to be that spontaneous. It was amazing. And it shocked me. I think that was my favorite part about it, is that it actually shocked me. I was like, wait, what? You finna do what?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I don't want to. I was gonna try to like talk my way out of it. No, we don't got to fight. What are you talking about? Like, I was trying to bitch out of it, but like, she's, no, we're doing this. We're doing it fucking live. This is happening right now. So that was definitely my favorite player moment.
Doing it live.
Fucking, we're doing it live. That was my favorite player moment, I think.
Good player moments.
Such
Anytime I
good
invite a
moment.
player, maybe this will be my ending thing.
Oh,
Pretty
nice.
awesome. That's good. It gets me pumped. Oh,
Absolutely.
good.
And the DM was with it. He was like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." Oh.
Well, all right, man. It's 9:54.
Oof.
Got any
I'm a
last
talker.
words?
Uh,
Famous last words here?
famous last words. Try the game. No matter your creed, background, financial status, skin color, sex, gender, whatever. D&D is a fairly tolerant community. You know, come into it, give it a try. Use your imagination. No, but don't have one these days. But I trust me, it is a fun thing to use. Just imagining all this stuff in your head, being able to live all these lives in your mind. So that's it. Have fun. Just have fun. Have fun. Be nicer to yourselves.
Have fun and be nicer to yourselves. I like
Exactly.
that. All right, man. Well, you guys can catch Rick here. He plays in Dungeons and Dillons on Thursday. And
I do.
thanks, man. Thanks for jumping on. It was a super good time. It was super fun. So
Absolutely. Can I plug my Twitter, my Instagram?
yeah, if you got links, do it.
I don't have any. I should link. I'll link them in a minute.
Yeah.
But the Black Rufio on Twitter, the Black Rufio on Instagram. I don't be talking about nothing. I post like random pictures and insights and thoughts and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, the Black Rufio is pretty much my moniker on everything. I am a fan of Hook. So
All right, dude.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you for
on.
having me. Thank you for having me, Dylan.
Anytime.
All right.
Man. Love you, Rick.
Love you, Dylan. Bye.
Bye, man. I'll see you on
Do I
Thursday.
leave or are you kicking me? Sorry, I think went.
It's all right. Either way.
What a terrible way to end. Sorry, I'm exiting. Bye, Dylan.
See ya. All right. So, yeah. So next time, Demon the PM, I'm thinking talking more about the specifics, the logistics of getting into the game, and talking about, if you're new to tabletop, what are some good things that you can get into, like how can you start out like a virtual tabletop, and having a mock session 0. What is a session 0? What kind of stuff do you talk about? Why is it awesome to have? So yeah, I look forward to having some people watching and maybe have a cool discussion. So see you guys next week. Boy.